All right, we're about to jump into a book that could seriously change how you think about your career, your past, and maybe even your entire future. It's called Range by David Epstein, and it basically takes one of our most deep seated beliefs about success and flips it completely on its head.
You ever get that sinking feeling that you're just behind? You look around and it feels like everyone else figured out their life's passion when they were like 5 years old and just shot off like a rocket. Meanwhile, you feel like you're still bouncing from one interest to the next, never really landing on that one thing.
And the world has a word for that, right? It calls you scattered, unfocused. The message we get, it's everywhere, from the whole 10,000-hour rule thing to advice from our families. It is loud and clear. Pick something, start super early, and just grind. And if you didn't do that, well, you've already lost. But what if that is just dead wrong? What if all that time you worried you were wasting was actually you building your single greatest advantage? What if, especially in the world we live in today, starting late and trying a bunch of stuff is actually the best way to get ahead? Okay, let's get into it. So first up, we're going to tear down this huge myth about what it takes to achieve great things. And we'll do it by looking at the stories of two absolute legends of sports. In one corner, you've got the classic prodigy. His dad literally puts a golf club in his hands when he's 7 months old. By age 2, he's on national TV. His entire life was a laser beam pointed at one thing and one thing only: golf. That, of course, is Tiger Woods, the poster child for starting early and specializing. But then you've got this other kid. He's just kind of messing around. He tries squash, skiing, wrestling, even basketball. His own mom, a tennis coach, wouldn't even train him too seriously early on. He plays soccer, he plays tennis, and he doesn't really focus on just one until he's a teenager. And that kid? That was Roger Federer. And here is the big twist. See, when researchers actually look at the data on how elite athletes develop, they find that Tiger's story is the total outlier. The norm, the much, much more common path to the top, is Roger's path. It's what's called a sampling period, trying lots of different things and then specializing later. We put the Tiger story on a pedestal, but reality is actually built on the Federator model. So the real question is, why? Well, the answer comes down to understanding the type of game we're all actually playing in life. Epstein breaks the world into two totally different kinds of environments. And spoiler alert, most of us are training for the wrong one. So, on one hand, you've got what he calls kind learning environments. Think about games like chess or sports like golf. The rules are totally fixed, they never change. The patterns repeat over and over. You make a move, you instantly know if it was good or bad. In these kinds of stable worlds that Tiger Woods approach, thousands of hours of focused practice works incredibly well. But here's the kicker. Most of real life, it's not kind at all. Our careers, the economy, relationships, these are wicked environments. The rules aren't clear at all, and they can change on you in a heartbeat. You can do everything right and still get a terrible result. And the feedback you get is often super delayed or just plain wrong. And this is where it gets really interesting in how we solve problems. A specialist, trained in one of those kind environments, develops this powerful but very narrow tool. It's like having a perfect hammer. It's a great hammer, but pretty soon, every problem they see starts to look like a nail. But the generalist, the person with range, has spent their life picking up all sorts of different tools. They don't have just a hammer, they have a whole toolbox. They can grab an idea from one field and use it to solve a problem in a completely different one. So, okay, having that big toolbox is obviously a huge advantage. But how do you even build it in the first place? Well, it turns out that the ways of learning that feel the most productive are often the absolute worst for us.
Check out this simple experiment they did. They took two groups of math students. Group 1 learned by blocking. They studied one type of problem, practiced it a bunch, then moved to the next. It felt great. They were acing the practice sets, they felt super smart. Group 2 used interleaving. All the different problem types were mixed together randomly. It was a total struggle. They felt slow, they were confused, they were frustrated. But then, the final exam happened. The group that felt good completely bombed. And the group that struggled, they absolutely crushed it, scoring way, way higher. And what this shows us is this incredible concept called desirable difficulties. It's this totally backwards sounding idea that the struggle itself, the frustration, is what actually forges real learning. When learning feels easy, your brain is just coasting. It's not working hard enough to build those deep, flexible connections that you need. That friction, that feeling of, this is hard, that's the feeling of learning that actually sticks. To put it another way, easy learning is totally fake. It's like writing your name in the sand at the beach. It looks good for a second, but the first wave of real-world pressure comes along and just washes it all away. Real knowledge, the kind that lasts, is built through that tough, desirable difficulty. But this human tendency to stick with what feels familiar and easy, it can lead to this incredibly dangerous trap for experts. And there is no story that illustrates this better than a tragic, true event from the world of firefighting. The year is 1949. A crew of 15 elite smoke jumpers, we're talking the Navy SEALs of firefighting, they parachute into a forest in Montana to fight a small fire. But in a split second, the situation changes. The wind whips around, the fire just explodes, and suddenly it's a 30-foot wall of flame racing up the hill, coming right for them. Their leader, a guy named Wag Dodge, he realizes there's no way they can outrun this thing. So in this moment of pure creative insight, he does something completely unheard of, something no one had ever been trained to do. He pulls out a match, and he lights the grass in front of him on fire. His insane idea was to quickly burn away a patch of fuel, creating a safety zone that the big fire would have to go around. He screams at his men, "Drop your tools, drop your axes and saws, and come lie down in the ashes with me." But the men, they just stared at him. Drop their tools, the very things that made them who they were? They thought he'd lost his mind, and so they kept running. The fire swept over them. 13 of those 15 men died. Wag Dodge survived, nearly unharmed. And here's the most tragic part. Investigators later found that if the men had simply dropped their 20 pounds of equipment, they could have easily outrun the fire to safety. Their tools, their very expertise became the anchor that drowned them. Now look, this isn't just some historical story about firefighters, right? This is a huge metaphor for how we navigate our own crazy, wicked world. Think about it. What are our tools? It's our college degree, our job title, the one specific skill we're known for. These things become our identity. So when the world changes, when a new technology comes along, or an entire industry gets turned upside down, our first instinct is to cling even tighter to our old tools, even when they're the very things weighing us down. And this is why your range, your so-called scatteredness, is your greatest strength. All those repetitive, specialized tasks that happen in those kind environments, that's what AI and robots are getting really good at. The problems that are left for humans to solve are the wicked ones. They require creative people who can think flexibly. All those years you thought you were wasting by trying different things, that wasn't a detour. That was you, building a unique toolbox that nobody else on Earth has. Because at the end of the day, in this complex, ever-changing, wicked world we live in, the ultimate advantage doesn't go to the person who can stare at a single point. It goes to the person who can connect the dots. The future belongs to people with range.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to really think about. What are the tools, the job titles, the degrees, the identities that you're clinging to so tightly that they might actually be holding you back from surviving and even thriving?